What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. But for today, let's learn some things on What Makes You Smarter.
Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Monday, June 22nd, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, TikTok users, K-pop fans claim they trolled Trump rally. TikTok users and Korean pop music fans on Sunday claimed that they were partly responsible for the low attendance at President Trump's Saturday rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. TikTok users said they coordinated an effort ahead of the event to get people to request free tickets and not show up. Trump tweeted last week that nearly 1 million people had requested tickets, but there were thousands of empty spots in the 19,000-seat arena. A spillover event planned outside was canceled altogether. Trump campaign officials blamed the low attendance on the media and protesters. Trump 2020 campaign manager Brad Parscale said the campaign weeded out tens of thousands of bogus ticket requests. Trump was, quote, furious, end quote, about, quote, underwhelming, end quote, turnout at the rally, NBC News reported. This is according to Reuters and NBC News. Number 2, WHO records biggest one-day coronavirus increase yet. The World Health Organization on Sunday reported a record 183,000 single-day jump in coronavirus cases. Brazil had the most, 54,771, followed by the United States with 36,617. White House officials acknowledged that they were preparing for a possible second wave of coronavirus infections this fall, even though it might not come. Quote, we are filling the stockpile in anticipation of a possible problem in the fall, end quote. Peter Navarro, President Trump's top trade advisor, said on CNN's State of the Union, quote, we're doing everything we can, end quote. Trump has insisted that the pandemic will ease. Coronavirus cases are on the rise in 18 states in the South, West, and Midwest. 7 states recorded single-day records for new infections on Saturday. California had its highest daily increase yet on Sunday. This is according to the Associated Press and the New York Times. Number 3. John Bolton confirms Trump's Ukraine quid pro quo. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton confirmed the central charge of the House Democrats' impeachment case against President Trump, telling ABC News in an interview broadcast Sunday night that Trump, quote, directly linked, end quote, security assistance to Ukraine, quote, with the investigation, end quote, of former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Bolton defended his decision to remain silent during the impeachment hearings and Senate trial, telling ABC's Martha Raddatz that his testimony wouldn't have changed any Republican votes. The interview came ahead of the release of Bolton's memoir, The Room Where It Happened, on Tuesday. The Trump administration asked a judge to block the release of the book, saying it contained classified material, but the judge ruled Saturday that Simon & Schuster could proceed with the planned release. This is according to Axios and the Associated Press. Number 4, 8 minority guards say they were barred from contact with Chauvin. 8 minority jail guards have filed discrimination charges with Minnesota's Department of Human Rights after they were barred from contact with former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin last month, according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Chauvin, who is white, was charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter in the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man. The complaint said all officers of color were ordered to a separate floor as Chauvin arrived. A supervisor reportedly told one of them their race could be a, quote, liability, end quote, around Chauvin. Jail Superintendent Steve Liddon told superiors he made a snap decision to shield minority employees from Chauvin, quote, to protect and support, end quote, them. This is according to the Star-Tribune. Number 5, Trump says niece signed very powerful NDA. President Trump said he had no idea his niece, Mary Trump, was writing a book about their family, something that she is, quote, not allowed, end quote, to do after signing a, quote, very powerful, end quote, non-disclosure agreement. Trump confirmed with Axios' Jonathan Swan on Sunday, a Daily Beast report from last week, which said Mary Trump signed a non-disclosure agreement after a 2001 settlement over the estate of her grandfather, Fred Trump Sr. This agreement reportedly forbids her from publishing anything about the litigation or her relationships with Trump and his siblings, Marianne and Robert. Simon & Schuster's plan on publishing Mary Trump's book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man, on July 28th. Trump told Swan the non-disclosure agreement, quote, covers everything, end quote, and Mary is, quote, obviously not honoring, end quote, it. This is according to Axios. Number 6, studies find coronavirus aid prevented poverty spike. The historic burst of federal aid in response to the coronavirus crisis prevented a surge in poverty that experts had predicted when unemployment jumped to its highest level since the Great Depression. 2 newly released studies indicated. The mid-range forecast in one of the studies by a Columbia University team showed only a slight 2020 rise in the poverty rate to 12.7% from 12.5% before the pandemic. Without the March Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which included one-time checks to most adults and weekly bonuses for the jobless, the poverty rate would have reached 16.3%, according to the researchers. Quote, right now, the safety net is doing what it's supposed to do for most families, end quote, said Zachary Parolin, a member of the Columbia team. This is according to the New York Times. Number 7. China halts poultry from Tyson plant over coronavirus cases. China on Sunday suspended imports of poultry from a Tyson Foods plant in Arkansas that had an outbreak of coronavirus among its employees. A Tyson spokesman said the facility, which is in Springdale, Arkansas, does not represent a health threat. Quote, at Tyson, we're confident our products are safe and we're hopeful consultations between the U.S. and Chinese governments will resolve this matter, end quote, wrote spokesman Gary Mickelson in an email to the Associated Press. The company said tests showed that 13% of the 3,748 employees at its facilities in Northwest Arkansas had tested positive. Health experts say the novel coronavirus spreads through respiratory droplets rather than food. This is according to NPR and the Associated Press. Number 8, Roosevelt statue to be removed from New York City's Museum of Natural History. A bronze statue of Theodore Roosevelt that has been at the entrance of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City since 1940 will be removed. The, quote, equestrian, end quote, statue depicts Roosevelt on horseback with an African-American man on one side and a Native American man on the other. The museum approached the city, which owns the building and property, to discuss removing the statue, quote, because it explicitly depicts black and indigenous people as subjugated and racially inferior, end quote. Mayor Bill de Blasio said in a statement, quote, the city supports the museum's request. It is the right decision and the right time to remove this problematic statue, end quote. Officials told the New York Times they are not sure when the statue will be taken down, where it will go, or if it will be replaced. This is according to the New York Times. Number 9. NASCAR finds noose in black driver's garage after Confederate flag ban protest. NASCAR announced Sunday that a noose had been found in the garage stall used by the team of Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr., the only black driver in the NASCAR Cup Series. On the day racing was scheduled to resume after a coronavirus shutdown, Wallace helped push NASCAR to ban Confederate flags from racetracks in response to Black Lives Matter protests. Earlier in the day, a plane flew a giant Confederate battle flag and the message, quote, defund NASCAR, end quote, over the track in Alabama. Some fans cruised with Confederate flags in front of the speedway before Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race, but they put the banners away before driving onto the property. NASCAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer, Steve O'Donnell, called whoever pulled the plane stunt, quote, a jackass, end quote. This is according to USA Today and the Daily Mail. Number 10. Former Dolphins running back Jim Kiick dies at 73. Former Miami Dolphins running back Jim Kiick, part of a legendary backfield that helped lead them to back-to-back Super Bowls in 1972 and 1973, died over the weekend in Wilton Manors, Florida. He was 73. Kiick, fullback Larry Zonka, and halfback Mercury Morris, running behind a strong offensive line, powered the team to 3 straight Super Bowls. Kiick scored a touchdown in Super Bowl VII, a 14-7 win over the Washington Redskins that capped the NFL's only perfect season. Kiick died after suffering from Alzheimer's disease. 2 of his teammates died last year with cognitive and neurological problems. Linebacker Nick Buoniconti had battled memory issues, and offensive guard Bob Kuechenberg had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a degenerative brain disease linked to repeated blows to the head. This is according to the New York Times. That's 10 things you need to know today for Monday, June 22nd. 2020. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody's doing reasonably well. Drop me some comments. Let me know what you're up to. Like, subscribe, give 5 stars, do all that kind of thing. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube, username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.